We absolutely love it when new manufacturers start to make a breakthrough in the world of PC building, especially the time before the manufacturer realizes their own quality and hike the prices up. Now you can get some pretty decent items out there these days and not break your bank, which is what a manufacturer called Abkoncore has actually done. Now we've already seen a case of theirs, the Helios 300 Sync, and they've reached out again to show off their new mid-sized tower case, the H600X, of which we have one right here. Now they've also given us a chance to use their fully modular Tenergy power supply coming in at 700 watts, rated at 80 plus bronze. And finally, we've got to use their Coolstorm T404 Hurricane dual processor cooler. So for this video, we wanted to incorporate the Abkoncore lineup into a new PC build, and we've been pretty conscious of budget and usability at the time of making this video, and we all know that the COVID-19 virus is at large and people are being a lot more careful with the money they're spending at the moment, so everything that's going into this new PC build should suit budget builders down to a T pretty much, and also be suitable for a bit of gaming too. So the products that we went with today are of course the Abkoncore items which we've just mentioned, as well as an ASUS Prime Z370A2 motherboard, which will support 8th generation Intel Core processors, of which we've chosen an i7-8700 clocked at 3.2 GHz with a turbo boost speed of 4.2 GHz. It's got 6 cores and 12 threads and is suitable towards high-end gaming as well as your higher end workflows as well. Now do please note that we picked up this processor on eBay for £206. If you're after a brand new one, then a quick Google shopping search threw back results for around £327. The motherboard does also support overclocking, though in this case we did choose a locked processor mainly for the decent price that we found. But if you do go down the K-SKU version, then overclocking is available to you. There are also 4 DIMM slots, of which we use 2, but there's room to upgrade in the future if need be. We've gone with a 16 gig Thermaltake TOUGHRAM RGB 16 gig 3600 MHz memory kit, again mainly for the price to performance, and being honest here, because it does look pretty decent and is compatible with so many RGB systems, including ASUS Aura, which is good for us as our motherboard is an ASUS product and sports some nice RGB down the side of it. And to make sure that a few games ping along nicely, it is topped off with a Gigabyte 1070 G1 gaming graphics card, which is integrated with 8 GB of GDDR5 256-bit memory, and again customizable RGB color schemes on its WindForce 3X cooler. We paid £185 for the card secondhand on eBay, but if you're against that, they can still be found for around £300 on Amazon right now with a quick search. And so finally for storage, we've gone with a single 1TB NVMe M2 drive, though the motherboard can support up to 2 M2 drives if you need to upgrade into the future. There is also a host of SATA inputs too if you're wanting to go the more traditional external hard drive or SSD route later down the line. Now this is I would say at best middle of the road system, making it something the majority of gamers out there could end up with. And to let you know, we've spent a total of £896 on this machine, that's British pounds. Of course, PC part prices can fluctuate so regularly, so take this as a guide price rather than something we can 100% set in stone. Now also, do be aware that most of these items, except the parts from Abkoncore supplied, were purchased secondhand through eBay, so we made a little bit of a saving there as well. So now that the PC is all together, just what can you get for just a smidge under £900 these days? Well, the answer is something that is perfectly okay for pretty much any kind of 1080p gaming that you would want to do. So to test it, we took a look at a bunch of games that all had built-in benchmarks to keep things fairer and to see the sort of frames per second they all achieved at 1080p and using their own high preset settings, but in some cases we did go up to the ultra settings, and spoiler alert, nothing we tried was disappointing. The Heaven benchmark at medium settings because it kept defaulting back to medium for some reason, and at 1080p with 2x anti-aliasing, as well as some extra graphical settings turned on like ambient occlusion, volumetric shadows and refraction, had an average FPS of 197.5 and a score of 4976. The minimum FPS rate touched 36.8 momentarily, but the maximum launched to 361.5. Prime 95 with an outside temperature of 12 Celsius on the PC under a desk in a warm room started at 30 degrees Celsius and peaked at 73 Celsius after a 10-minute run with the standard default mix test. PC Mark X returned an overall score of 6639, and 3D Mark we were recommended to run the Time Spy benchmark and we were left with a score of 6301. One interesting point was Grand Theft Auto 5 set itself at an ultra graphics preset, but to keep things in our testing fair, we backed that down to a high preset to make comparisons with the other games we tested. It produced a higher range of FPS, with Pass 1 coming dead on 60 frames per second, but Pass 5 went up to 169 frames per second, which was amazing to see. Red Dead Redemption 2 is known to be pretty demanding, and even with a beastie gaming computer, running this game at full capacity can have some issues. Nonetheless, we decided to try running Red Dead 2 on our new build, and we were happy with the results that we got. We first ran a benchmark using the settings the game chose for us as default, which included a 1080p resolution, the quality preset level as balanced, and the advanced settings turned off, and we got an average frames per second of 64 when benchmarked. The game was at this rate was totally playable, so we pushed it some more. Our second benchmark had the same resolution and the same quality preset level, but this time we turned all the settings to high and turned on the advanced graphics setting using the Vulkan API and got an average frames per second of 35. Again, it's playable and it does look absolutely superb, but for such a drastic drop in frames, I don't think you're going to notice a huge difference between the two different graphics settings we chose if you're running around Saint Denis, for example, or in the middle of a gunfight. Forza Horizon 4 on launch stuck us at an ultra preset at 1080p resolution, so I did leave it at that just to see if it could handle a decent frame rate on this build, and looking at the GPU rendering scores, it achieved 88 frames per second, but the CPU simulation score scored a whopping 245, and the CPU render score came in at 163 FPS. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, which is my favourite in the new lineup of Tomb Raider games so far, surprisingly had an average score of 77 FPS, which I thought was pretty respectable, seeing as there was so much hype surrounding it when it was first launched due to its detailed nature. It still looked absolutely excellent at the high graphical preset that I chose, and detail, especially in the second half of the game when you reach Paititi, or Paititi should I say. And moving on to Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which again can get very detailed sometimes, especially when you're in these cities, came in at 102 average frames per second on the benchmark at its high preset setting. And finally, for this batch, I thought I'd include my dad's favourite game, Far Cry New Dawn, which he would call a masterpiece title, knocked out 103 frames per second. Sure, it's not the most demanding game in the world, but it's certainly considered a modern day title. What was especially nice was the fact that we had the chance to run some virtual reality games like Serious Sam: The Third Encounter, Half-Life Alyx, and Boneworks on a Valve Index, and all managed to become as immersive as you like, and quite surprisingly, they just ran super smooth. The 1070 that we're using states on the box that it's capable of VR, but like with anything PC related, you can't always trust what's stated on the box, and I was under the assumption that VR needed a proper beefy graphics card to hold up, but I was apparently wrong. A stuttering screen and games affected by low FPS on modern hardware these days is a rare thing, and usually reveals something else running in the background is playing havoc with your games, or there is something else going on with your PC that causes some kind of bottlenecking to your hardware. Of course, you can build cheaper gaming PCs than this, like we've seen from fellow YouTubers who build some really crazy price systems, like a few of them at the moment have built $200 systems for games. It's amazing what you can get for money now. But as we have said before, you pretty much get what you pay in this industry. So with that, it's fair to say that you should just splash out on the important things like the CPU, graphics card, and at least 16 gig of decent RAM, and you'll be away managing decent frame rates on modern games at a decent resolution. With our build in particular, it would have been nice to go for a top spec GTX 1080 Ti, or maybe venture into the RTX series with a 27 Super, but unfortunately our budget didn't stretch that far, as these cards are so overpriced still at the moment. But to be quite honest with you, I'm okay with that. Now, I was still able to manage modern titles at respectable frame rates and resolution. 1440p would have been nice, but it's not essential to get you into the fray. And if you're a competitive player or wanting to get into that type of gaming, then chances are you're not going to be playing games with graphics turned up to the max anyway. So what did you think of our sub 900 gaming build? Is it something you could see yourself putting together? Or if you know your hardware, what would you have gone for instead to get the most bang for your buck? Do let us know in the comments below. So thank you very much for checking out our very first build guide on this channel, our sub £900 gaming PC. If you did enjoy this video, then do click that like button. Please subscribe to keep up with our latest tech and gaming videos, and as I say, let us know down in the comments what you thought about this video, what you would change about our build, and whether you would save money somewhere else or save money on the processor, go for a bigger graphics card, for example. I don't know. Let us know in the comments down below. As I say, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in the next video.